Jade Scott, and we go upstairs here again for the introductions by Principal.
Lead doctor to the ringside, please. Lead doctor to the ringside.
Okay. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Reno, Nevada, Cedric Kushner Productions, Corona Extra, in association with the Reno Hilton and the Reno Sparks Convention and Visitors Authority, present Heavyweight Explosion. This afternoon's bouts are sanctioned by the Nevada Athletic Commission, Dr. Elias Gonan, Commissioner and Chairman. Commissioners Luther Mack, Nat Caraselli, Dr. Jim Nave, Chris Rivera, and Executive Director Mark Ratner. Head physician at ringside, Joe Heflin and Dr. James McLennan. Timekeepers, Steve Menzel and John Rogers. This is our co-feature heavyweight division, 10 rounds of boxing, fighting out of the blue corner, weighing in at 193 pounds, wearing jade green trunks, from Brooklyn to New York, with a record of 18-1, 15 by KO. Ladies and gentlemen, Jade, the Jewel, Scott. His opponent fighting out of the red corner, wearing black trunks, weighing in at 197 pounds. He hails from Los Angeles, California, with a record of 23-10-1, 12 by KO. Ladies and gentlemen, Mike Sedillo. Our judges for this bout, Bert Clements, Doug Tucker, and Keith McDonald. Third man in the ring, ladies and gentlemen, Mills Lane.
All right, we've already gone through all the instructions one time. Protect yourself at all times. Any questions from this corner? Any questions from this corner? Let's get it on.
Referee of today's fight, that is Mills Lane. Take a look at the tail of the tape today. You can see Mike Sedillo 34, Scott only 25, but you can see otherwise it's pretty well a pretty much matchup with Sedillo a little heavier. The heaviest ever for him at 197. And they are set to go for 10 rounds today in Reno as we're off and running in round number 1. In the black with the red stripe and the taller of the two again is Sedillo, while in the jade green trunks is the Jewel, Jade Scott. And it'll be interesting to see which one will try to prevail the other style in him here early in round 1 and what adjustments will be made throughout this 10-round fight.
Jade Scott's got a real good jab. He usually tries to get it established. Mike Sedillo's got a long right hand that he likes to take chances with. He's got a real good chin himself, so he's not so defensive-minded.
Jade Scott, last fight we saw him here on the heavyweight explosion last month. He defeated Axum Spake. You may recall put him down in the 7th round. Pretty polished fighter out of North Carolina. And possessed some pretty good punches, as a matter of fact, in doing so. He's also been in the ring with some other good names we'll allude to before the fight's over. And right now against Mike Sedillo, who actually has been in the ring with a pretty good who's who of his own in his illustrious years in the ring. At age 34, he's been in with a group of great ones.
Joel Scott, he's got a very limber neck, and he tucks his head down into his chest and got his roll of punches over the top of his shoulders. He's a good, tucks his chin well, and the only time he really has been in trouble in a fight is when he got tired in the later rounds with Nate Miller in his only loss, but he's back from that very strong.
One thing that Mike Sedillo will do before this fight is all over, and you've already seen him do it just briefly there, when Jade Scott getting on top of him, you'll see Sedillo use those elbows. He really push you off well with the elbows to get, again, some pretty good punching room, or at least a little advantage of what little distance he has in outreaching Jade Scott. Only about an inch difference in their reach today, 78-77.
Mike Sedillo really, he just moved up to the cruiserweight division. He was a light heavyweight, and at that height, he was really all the more angular compared to everybody that he fought. Gave guys a lot of trouble with that.
By the way, his record is 23-10-1. The only draw on his card is that with Anthony Henry, and that was back in May of 1991. Other people that he has fought include the current heavyweight champion, Michael Moore, is a light heavyweight, and Andrew Maynard, just to mention a few. Araya Grant, also Mr. Barber, the last one to put him down in 12 rounds for the WBA. And, of course, that was a championship fight in February of this year in Chicago. Both fighters just being very cautious in round number 1. Both know they possess reasonably good punches. 15 knockouts for Jade Scott. You see the quick hands. And a dozen knockouts and the 23 wins by Mike Sedillo.
Both fighters got a good respect for each other, and they're feeling each other out here early in this fight. This match was just made about a week ago, so they didn't really have that much time to really study tapes of each other. Nice counter right hand attempt by Scott there.
There you see Sedillo always trying to get some punching room as they end round 1. First round here at the Reno Hilton has gone in a feeling out round, certainly, as the two fighters trying to make sure they know exactly what to expect from the other, as Bob Spagnola pointed out. By the way, Bob, that's not your plane leaving. As he pointed out earlier, both these fighters did not know this was going to be the way the fight would go until just a couple of days ago. They're both well aware of each other and the fact that both are good students of the game, but nonetheless stepping in, and you got to be a little cautious when you're not really sure, particularly if you haven't seen that fighter in the most recent fight.
Sure, and depending on who you've been sparring with or whatever, you might have to make some adjustments. Sedillo's a long guy. He's likes to fight out at a long range, whereas Jade Scott, although he's got a good jab, he's got that shorter, choppier kind of a rhythm, which he likes to get into and work his way into fights.
Rules for Nevada, 10-point scoring, no standing 8, 3 knockdown rule in effect. Save with the bell only in the last round, and only the referee can stop the fight in Nevada. The referee for round number 2 is Mills Lane, synonymous with boxing here in Reno and in Nevada, and for that matter, maybe around the world, as he is the referee of this heavyweight fight. And cautious for a low blow to Jade Scott there on Mike Sedillo.
Mike's got that long midriff. Oh, nice uppercut by Jade Scott, right on the point of the chin of Mike Sedillo.
You have to figure that Tommy Brooks saw that one as an opening through round number 1, as he told Jade, let's try that uppercut and see if that works to open up the round, and it did.
The way that Mike holds his gloves in that kind of peekaboo defense, it's almost a funnel for a guy with a good uppercut.
Lee Smith, by the way, main trainer on the other side of the ring with Mike Sedillo. And you see Scott, he just kind of explodes with some punches. Right now, most of those being caught by the elbows and the gloves by Mike Sedillo, even though that right hand slipped over the top there.
You can see Tommy Brooks interacting with his fighter. He gets him in there and he tells him, pop, pop, pop. You hear him in the corner, which means 1, 2, 3. You punch 3 times, not just once. And that's what Jade Scott tries to do. There he tried to measure him for a straight right hand.
Sedillo again just prodding. Jade Scott trying to punctuate that forward progress by Sedillo with that pop, 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 as we alluded to. By the way, Sedillo, in conversations with you, I was not aware he didn't have much of an amateur, if any, amateur boxing experience in Mike Sedillo.
Yeah, no, Mike never had an amateur fight.
Wow.
He said he had a couple out there on the various avenues of Chino, California, but he wasn't and he got started in the business late. He was, that's why he doesn't have a lot of miles on him. A guy that's fought the level of competition that he has, that had a bunch of amateur fights, would be finished by now. But Mike really, his odometer's only got, there's that 1, 2, 3, pop, pop, pop with Jade Scott, and then he doesn't let Mike get settled. He goes out and makes him start again.
Bob, you talked about in the opening of the show about Sedillo trying to take the younger fighters into the late rounds. Sedillo has been 10 rounds 7 times and been 12 rounds 6 times in his career. And we're talking about a span of some 34 fights. He's been in the late rounds a lot of times, that's for sure.
Mike's naturally got a good defense in there, but in order to win fights, so sometimes you got to throw that defense aside and start opening up. And Mike's always been very economical with his punches in the fight that he had with Anthony Hemrick, which I didn't think really was as close as a draw. He landed some good shots in the fight, but nothing compared to the numbers run by Anthony Hemrick. Probably his best shot as a pro was when he won the USBA title from Uriah Grant, a very strong fighter in his own right. That was the highlight of Mike's career up to this point.
Good look at Mike Sedillo heading back to his corner. Mills Lane over collecting the cards, just passing in front of the cameras there. And Sedillo again, see what kind of strategy might be forthcoming from that corner here is, again, Jade Scott started to find a little bit of an uppercut. Also started to throw those 1, 2, 3 punches in a row. And we'll take a look at some of that, as a matter of fact. There it is. Sedillo trying to answer him back, and does. Pretty good long right hook that time.
Yeah, he landed that long right hand at the end, but Jade Scott, even though he didn't land, had thrown 4 punches in a combination prior to that, and that's what this is going to be, the busy, nice work of Jade Scott against the big punch attempts of Mike Sedillo.
Sedillo again at 34 years of age has been through this, a few times. Strategy in the corner as they get ready to start the third round of the fight. It's the heavyweight explosion from Reno, Nevada. Sam Smith, Bob Spagnola, as we're in with Mike Sedillo in the black, along with Jade and the Jewel Scott in the Jade green. And they battle on with the adjustments being done through the first 2 rounds. And how about those first 2 rounds? How'd you score those first 2?
I gave both rounds to Jade Scott, as I'm sure I'm going to do the rest of this fight, unless Mike, lands some big shots and gets Jade in trouble, because it just, by the contrast of their styles, Scott is much busier, and unless Mike Sedillo scores that big shot and hurts Jade Scott, he's going to be hard-pressed to stay up with him numbers-wise.
By the way, Bob, how do you evaluate, or how do you make the comment as you see, again, those wide punches of Sedillo being ducked away by Jade Scott? How do you evaluate Mike Sedillo stepping up at 197? This is the heaviest he's ever been. Prior to that, 184. For a fight back in 1983 was as heavy as he ever been. It's a good move, a wise move. What do you think about Mike Sedillo stepping up in weight?
Well, he's on in his years now, but he certainly has the frame to carry around, 195 pounds, no problem. He was a freak as a light heavyweight. Nobody could believe, with how angular he was at that weight. With those, but he's powerful. He's not a thin, weak guy. He's very strong and kind of one of those raw bone guys that you run into. But Jade Scott, there he goes, 1, 2, 3, pop, pop, pop. Nice work in there, and then he's in there. He feels comfortable in there, but he's not going to let Sedillo hit him with those bombs at long range out there, which is what Mike wants to do. Jade's going to work in there, get his due, and then get out. Or maybe stay in.
Yeah, that's right. He might just want to stay on his chest because he's able to back out, get those 1, 2, 3 punches in, and then get right back on his chest, which smothers up any punches Mike Sedillo was able to throw at him.
Right, and as long as he keeps his head down when he goes out and not go straight back out. Those are the things he's working on here, going out to the sides, both sides, and changing the things that he does as the fight progresses.
You can see Sedillo trying slowly but surely to push Scott around the room. And even though there's only 4 pounds difference in their weight, Sedillo's had a little bit of advantage there, but Scott stands and fights. Mills Lane trying to be the inconspicuous third man in the ring, letting him fight out of those clinches.
Those guys are jockeying for position in there, and you can see them trying to turn each other, and the little subtle things that guys do on the inside. They're not just resting, although it certainly looks like it.
Round 3 has not been much of a difference than we saw in round number 2, as again those 1, 2, 3 combinations of Scott scoring pretty well with Mike Sedillo. Closing seconds of the third. They're scheduled for 10 on our co-feature today on our first anniversary show, the Heavyweight Explosion on the Cedric Kushner Sports Network. Good look at Jade Scott as he comes right into wherever you might be viewing with us today on the Heavyweight Explosion. That's a good look also at Tommy Brooks jumping in, and very animated trainer when he gets in the ring with you. Let's see if we can duck into that corner and pick up some conversation here.
Tommy Brooks, one of the well thought of young trainers in the business today, and he's got a good relationship with his fighter Jade Scott, and the guy that's working with him, Jim Fennell, and Lou Duva. They're it's a heck of a team to have, although Lou's not here today. Joe Sosa.
Pick up the pace and don't abandon your jab. Okay? Keep your jab going. Got me? Let's go.
So again, he wants to try to get that jab, and that would set up more of that 1, 2, 3 punch combination. So let's see if it works in round 4. Good crowd basking in the sun here at the Reno Hilton. We're outside in their outdoor amphitheater, which right now is hosting the Heavyweight Explosion. Sam Smith, Bob Spagnola, and our fighters in the ring on the right, Jade Scott, Mike Sedillo in the black with the red. And right now, you can see the looping left hand of Mike Sedillo. One of the things in between rounds, they wanted Jade Scott to go back to using the jab a little more, something he had kind of abandoned in the first 3 rounds. So Tommy Brooks wants to try to reestablish the left jab. And so far, so good here in the 4th round.
Now, this is a good work, experience for Jade Scott if he takes it as that. I was talking with his co-manager, Jim Fennell, yesterday, and they're well aware of Sedillo and how durable he is and everything, and they see their chance to go in there and work a good hard 10 rounds and maybe, you know, get the opportunity if it comes to get out a guy that not too many, but I mean, the last guy I saw stop Mike Sedillo when he was right was Michael Moore in a tough fight as a light heavyweight. So that's not bad company considering you're talking about the current heavyweight champion of the world.
Bob, did you get a read on when these fighters came in? Certainly Mike Sedillo, and the late notice didn't come in till late. But how about Jade Scott? He come in any time early that you know of?
No, I don't believe so. Not early enough. I mean, to adjust yourself to this mile high, you need to come in about 3 weeks ahead of time at least, and anything short of that really is just that, short. You can't, it's not, if you're there for 1 week, it's better than no time. They say if you can't be there for the 3 weeks, you should come in the day before the fight, and because it doesn't really, the altitude doesn't begin to affect you for about 36, 48 hours.
The reason I asked that question is the fact that both fighters, and we have seen them fight several fights, you and I together, seem to be pacing themselves a little bit there. They're being a little more economical with the punches. Certainly respect has something to do with it as well. But neither fighter got in here early enough to be acclimated to the altitude, A, or B, to really know that much about each other's style early on. And now they're kind of pacing themselves well in the early rounds, knowing they've got to go a full 10 rounds if it goes the distance.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. They do. Anytime they get up here at this high altitude, fighters seem more concerned with it, and also when they're fighting outdoors, they think, geez, the sun might get to me, I might get tired. They always picture Barry McGuigan flying across the canvas, with Stevie Cruz after him. So that those are the pictures that are marked indelibly in a lot of fighters' minds that are students of the game.
I might add that when McGuigan's, along with Stevie Cruz, fought for the championship in Las Vegas, it was registered as 123 degrees in the ring. 112 degrees in Las Vegas that day. Here we are at the benefit of a canvas that covers the ring, and just a light little breeze is blowing in Reno, so it is not as hot as it possibly could be here in the state of Nevada for this fight today. Closing seconds of the fourth round, and again, cautiously, both fighters trying to find an edge on the other for the first 4 rounds of their scheduled 10 round of a heavyweight explosion. Well, the crowd even getting a little bit caught up in that coasting, so to speak, with the two fighters to the first 4 rounds, as both corners all of a sudden are going to try to find just exactly what combination or what thing might work coming up in round number 5. But again, one thing particularly with Sedillo, Scott does not want to do, and that, of course, is to abandon fundamentals and get a little helter-skelter, because as you and I both know, Mike has been in there and crafty enough to be able to take a pretty good shot at you.
Yeah, no, and that's what he likes. He'd love to be exchanging punches with Jade Scott, but at the same time, he's not getting to exchange many punches, and the shots that he lands on Scott are either just a little bit too high on the head, or just a day late or a dollar short, so to speak.
Good look at Mike Sedillo, 34 years of age, from Los Angeles, California. Getting a pretty good shower bath over there. Billy Smith has given the instructions. They're out of the corner. And we're ready for the 5th round. This is round 5 of a heavyweight explosion. With his back to you, Jade Scott comes out and meets Mike Sedillo in the center of the ring. In pretty much a shutout being thrown now by Jade Scott. And not so much that he's taken control of the fight, but the fact that Sedillo, who looks like he may try to do a little more here in the 5th, has really not done that much to conquer the defense of Jade Scott.
Jade hasn't, dominated Mike completely or anything, or beat him by wide margins, but he certainly has beaten him in every single round, through scoring points and making Mike miss those big punches as he started to miss those 2 big hooks to start this round.
By the way, they advertised, the fight fans here, the suntans were no charge, by the way, when they bought their tickets here, as it is a sun-drenched day. You can see the fans in the background there.
But with a beautiful breeze coming over.
It is nice. Unlike yesterday, which unfortunately I feel it picking up a little bit. It was gusting up to about 40 miles per hour here yesterday. Got a little bit windy. But then we were hitting all of our tee shots downwind, though, I think. Here's Jade Scott still trying to throw that hook into the body of Mike Sedillo, trying to set up something down low and then trying to come up over the top. There you see it again, going downstairs. I would imagine Sedillo's been hit with just a few of those body shots. What do you think, Mark?
In a career, like I said, he's lucky that he didn't have a bunch of amateur fights to go with these pros, because Mike has absorbed a lot of punishment in his career.
I thought it was interesting when we stuck our nose in the corner with Tommy Brooks over there a moment ago. Don't abandon the jab. Nothing real excitable over there. Just kind of, hey, we're fighting our fight. We're doing okay. Just kind of stay with the jab, setting up more and more punches that you can. And seems to be very patient for a young man who, at 25 years of age, seems to be very enthusiastic when you talk to him, out of the ring anyway. Very calm right now.
Cornerman, the mark of a good cornerman is different things work for different fighters. You know, not the same thing doesn't work for all fighters. Some guys, if they're excitable, you need to calm them down, and some guys, if they're docile, you need to get them revved up, you know, slap them in the face or whatever. But that doesn't work with a lot of guys. A lot of guys, if somebody slaps them in the face, they might slap you back. So, it's that interaction between a good coach and a fighter, and a coach's ability to adapt to various fighters and their the individual traits that they have is the mark of a good trainer, and one of the benefits that Tommy Brooks has got going for him.
You know, one of the things that's interesting as we watch the closing seconds is to watch Tommy Brooks work. This is one of the up-and-coming young trainers that's going right now. And Jade Scott, his fighter, you go back and you think of the Eddie Futches and, of course, the Angelo Dundees and all of the others. Trainers don't necessarily have a role model. They may as far as looking to that person, but they have their own shtick, their own style. And I think that's what makes boxing so interesting, because as the trainer goes, so goes the fighter many times. Jade Scott back to his corner. Tommy Brooks right out of there with him. And I don't know if there's a little psychology going or not, but keep in mind that Mike Sedillo is from Los Angeles, and that is a Los Angeles Raiders hat that Tommy Brooks is wearing in the corner today. Let's take a look and see if we can get some sound coming out of that corner. See what their strategy might be right now.
Let me hit him up. Right hand, I already got it.
Okay.
Right hand is there. But you got to follow up with it. This guy don't belong in the same ring with you, man. You know, you letting the guy survive. Pick up the pace on him. You know what I'm saying? You're throwing one jab at a time, and then you're doing the right hand right there. You know better than that. You're a champion, baby. You got sitting all over. Let's go.
Well, we talked about the pace of this fight being a little bit laid back, and apparently Tommy Brooks is going to step on the accelerator as we head for the 6th round. We're heading for round number 6 of this scheduled 10-rounder of the heavyweights in our heavyweight explosion. Sam Smith along with Bob Spagnola, delighted you could join us here in Reno, Nevada on a sun-drenched afternoon of boxing as Mike Sedillo and Jade Scott. Scott so far has been throwing nothing but some high heat, and that's got him in a shutout right now through the first 5. But again in his corner, Tommy Brooks says, let's add a little fuel to the fire. Let's pick up the tempo here a little bit. Let's see if Scott does so in the 6th round.
Tommy's now confident in the flow of the fight, that his fighter's the better fighter in the ring, and now he wants him to step it up and make something happen for the television fans and the fans here in Reno. He wants Jade to really, the IBF convention's going on out here. Everybody's in attendance, the ratings committee guys, and he wants Jade Scott to turn it on a little bit. He knows he's in good condition. He wants him to turn up the amperage a little bit here and try to get Mike Sedillo out of there.
Jade Scott comes from a very good pedigree as far as his amateur background is concerned. 57-8, was a Metro New York champion 3 times. And when you come out of New York with some titles, you know you have fought some pretty tough customers along the way.
Yeah, just ask any sports writer from New York. To me, sometimes being from the Big Apple is a little bit, these guys, if they win the city of New York, they're touted as a Hall of Famer. And, oftentimes boxing's an international sport, and you got to go every time you go in, you got to earn it. They don't just give you respect.
Every time I turn around, I almost think we're close to Shea Stadium in New York. Speaking of that, with a plane going out of Reno. Well, they are just loaded to the hilt, bringing people in to enjoy not only the nice weather, but the hospitality of the Reno Sparks Chamber of Commerce folks as they rolled it out for us here on this trip.
And Jade Scott is turning up the amperage a little bit here, Sam, and scoring with some good shots, but he's going to leave himself open to a counter by Mike Sedillo. Sometimes fighters are satisfied to just settle into a little rhythm of a fight and just be happy to win every single round like Jade was doing, but now they want him to turn it up. Let's see if he makes any mistakes or gets careless as he tries to finish Mike Sedillo.
We have seen Jade Scott. They're taking away a 1-pointer for a low blow on Jade Scott. That's the 2nd time, actually the 3rd time I believe he was warned.
Yeah, he was warned twice prior to that, and Mills made the kill.
So a 1-point deduction for a low blow here. Again, coming off of the glove that time of Jade Scott, and Mike Sedillo will given ample time here to recover. And Mills Lane knows exactly how much time he wants to give him. Mike Sedillo has to make the call. He says, I'm ready to go. But 1 point for the low blow. Again in the 6th round. Probably won't have a great deal to do with the early scoring, but again, it does take a point away here from Scott. At least could get an even round, something we haven't had a lot of in this fight so far in the unofficial card. Scott definitely has tried to pick up the tempo of the fight here in the 6th round. No doubt about that. He did get the foul. Nonetheless, he's trying to up the tempo a little bit.
He's coming behind a good, strong left jab, too. Just what Tommy Brooks wanted him to do. Set it all up, come in behind that jab.
You see Mike Sedillo also trying to throw a left jab, but lunging with the right hand. They may exploit that, as we'll go to the 7th in a moment. Both fighters will take their necessary 1-minute rest. Mike Sedillo in the far corner. Mills Lane going over to check on him. Take a look at him to make sure he's all right after that low blow there in the 6th round that on a 1-point deduction to Jade Scott out of Brooklyn, New York. Sedillo out of Los Angeles, California. A former U.S. player. Also fought through all the major tournaments that they've had, and they always have a good one out at the Forum in Los Angeles.
The hottest aquatic show in Nevada is now at the Reno Hilton. Jeff Kutash's Splash, a musical water spectacular filled to the brim with fountains, waterfalls, dancers, lasers, acrobats, and ice skaters, has been voted Show of the Year for the past 4 years. And now we're matching this hot show with an even hotter offer. See Splash and stay the night for a cool $29 per person, only at the Reno Hilton. Call 1-800-RENO-FUN. We're mixing water with electricity.
Hey, let's take a look and see if we can find where that low blow might have come. Looks like he dug the left hook, and that's where Mills Lane, I think, stepped in and called the low blow.
Yeah, it was kind of to the hip, though, more than to the middle of the groin area. But Mills he's a take charge guy, and he'd warned Scott verbally twice for that, and told him the second time he'd take one the next time.
Heavyweight explosion coming to you from Reno, Nevada on the Cedric Kushner Sports Network. Corona Extra. Bring you all of the action here as we've got a good opener for our show today, and Mike Sedillo going up against Jade Scott. Scott getting a 1-point deduction for a low blow in the 6th round, and they answer the bell for the 7th. What does Sedillo do to change what's happening here, Bob, to how to change it around for him as we start this 7th round?
Well, the fact that Jade Scott is turning up the heat a little bit and almost seems willing now to exchange punches with Mike Sedillo. Mike's just got to settle down and try to land one of those big shots that'll put him back into this fight, because he just can't match speed with Jade the Jewel, and that's a heck of a disadvantage to be at in this business.
You can see Scott, and you see Sedillo, but look how quickly Scott, even as a heavyweight at 193 pounds, very, very quick to feet when he starts to slip those punches. Did a good job. It's Mike Sedillo kind of telegraphing several of those with a wide punch.
Yeah, even though Mike landed the first punch of that combination, the second two, Scott was able to get underneath, making him miss badly.
With the crowd starting to try to encourage the two fighters to pick up the pace themselves here in the 7th. See the time remaining. By the way, Mike Sedillo, speaking of people that he had lost to, he was knocked out in the 6th round by Michael Moore. It was a light heavyweight fight for the WBO title back in December of 1989. Michael Moore, one of the very good, legitimate light heavyweights. Never fought as a cruiserweight. I thought he had at one time, but he told me flatly, I did not fight as a cruiserweight, Sam, contrary to what you say. And he didn't. But nonetheless, a good light heavyweight. And in fact, as soon as I got up off the deck in the hotel room, I said, "You're right, Michael. I never saw you as a cruiserweight." Nonetheless, he did lose in 7 rounds, but knocked out again in the 6th round, by Michael Moore. And sometimes they have to put, remember the old super heavyweight division?
Well, in the amateurs they have.
I qualify for that, I think. I'm not sure.
Well, it's business as usual here in 7. Jade the Jewel in control here.
It'll be interesting. Mills Lane has been one of those referees also that kind of sticks his nose in occasionally and says, "Come on, fellas, we got to get fired. We got to make this a little entertaining." And you you just have a feeling that somewhere along the way you're going to hear that before this fight is over. Don't necessarily say that's right for a referee to do that, but Mills Lane, he does have his own style. And Jade definitely has picked up the tempo of this fight as we near the end of round number 7. Mike Sedillo, 34 years of age, again taking this fight on very late notice. They're checking to see if there's any swelling under that right eye. And you know, that's one thing looking at Mike Sedillo. He does have a little scar tissue up around the eyebrows, but has not been cut that many times when you consider how many great fights he's been in.
Yeah, Mike's got that tough skin, and he doesn't have high cheekbones or anything that leave him susceptible to getting busted up. There's Sedillo landed a good right hand, his best punch of the fight, and shortly after that missed 2 follow-up punches that Scott got underneath.
As you see the crowd, by the way, our television crew, maybe between one of the rounds, can let us look at a Agua driving range, by the way. They have one here. It's called Hilton Bay Lake. And we'll hopefully take a look at that between one of our rounds coming up. As we get ready for the next round, round 8. Round 8 is here of a scheduled 10-rounder. As Jade Scott again circling to his left. And on his left now, that is Mike Sedillo. Sedillo, 23-10-1, 12 wins by knockout, but 18-1 for Jade Scott, with 15 of his wins by knockout. And that included his last win over Axum Spake, the last man he fought here on the Heavyweight Explosion. We were in Atlantic City last month, and he won in 7.
But this is just the kind of move you want to make as a manager if you've got Jade Scott coming in there. He's a world-rated cruiserweight, been off for a little bit. You get him with an Axum Spate and knock him out in 7 rounds, and then you go with a steel chin guy like a Mike Sedillo and fight him in a solid 10. This is just the kind of pace that you want for a guy that you've got title aspirations with. Continuously stepping up his opposition, keeping him sharp.
Jade Scott is climbing up the list, and several people feel that he may be kind of getting himself in a position to start climbing back in where he does get the opportunity to fight for a heavyweight title. But then you consider at 193, how much more weight can Jade Scott put on comfortably here, Bob, and still have that quickness and be a good heavyweight that can challenge some of those who are out there right now.
I'm not sure about him being a heavyweight, but as a cruiserweight, he really is a solid fighter. And there he got measured and hit with the right hand by Sedillo. But Jade Scott, he does things well. He's quick. He throws good combinations. He's not spectacular in any one aspect of the game. Not a huge puncher but he does everything well. And sometimes that it's just the way he handles his opponents, winning every round of the fight. People don't give him credit for being as good of a fighter as he is.
Slipped that left hook pretty nicely. Sedillo had thrown out there.
He got his 3 underneath, and then Mike tried to counter with his 1 shot, and Jade got right underneath it.
Mills Lane had some kind of warning to Mike Sedillo on that last break. Sedillo kind of acknowledged it. Not sure exactly what it might have been, even though he was holding the glove of Jade Scott, but it was nothing has been rather flagrant throughout this entire fight so far. Keep in mind a 1-point deduction back in the 6th round for a low blow by Jade Scott. Well, you won't go very far to determining how the fight comes out, but again, that's the only pretty much discrepancy he's had on the scorecard today. Closing seconds of round number 8. Scott looked like he picked up the tempo a little bit in the 7th. Now settled back down into the grind here in round 8. These two heavyweights, when you take a look at Jade Scott, we made mention 18-1 and trying to climb up in the rankings at 193 pounds, only 25 years of age, out of Brooklyn, New York. And when I asked him, born, reared, and everything else in Brooklyn, you're going to stay there? And he said, hey, I'm right there. You talk about the beauty that surrounds this great part of the country, the Sierra Nevada range. You see some of the snow fields. They had a lot of snow this summer. Some good skiing out this way. You can see that. That's over right around, and of course Lake Tahoe is only about an hour and 15 minutes from here. And right now in the shadow of the Reno Hilton is where we are, as they have put us in the amphitheater today. And as you take a look, you know how many times let's hit our ball in the water and then have to go chase it? No, not in this case. You just hit them out in the water and let them stay there. That's one of the islands that you hit to out in their driving range. It is out in what is called Hilton Bay Lake. Quite a recreation facility here at the Hilton in Reno. This is round 9 of a scheduled 10-rounder of the heavyweight explosion. And Jade Scott out of Brooklyn trying to pick up his 19th win. And unless the canopy that covers this ring falls in on him, he's well on his way of doing that. With a rather solid performance here against Mike Sedillo. Sedillo stepping up to the heaviest weight he's ever fought at 197. And you can even hear the crowd, and particularly Tommy Brooks, saying, hey, let it go. Let's start throwing some punches. Let that right hand fly.
Yeah, he started this round quite well. Scott has landed both some good power jabs and a couple of right hands, but Mike Sedillo usually is like a sleeping giant. You know, he doesn't, when guys jump on him like this is when he's most dangerous.
See Sedillo just flipping out the left jab but not doing anything with it behind it, as he's pretty much letting Jade Scott just walk in on him here. Jade, however, just relegating to that one punch. Throws in the one punch. Looked downstairs, didn't throw anything down there.
You can see in Mike Sedillo, you know, the inactivity on his record. I mean, he hadn't had a fight in 14 months coming into this one. It just, you know, and all the emphasis on all the guys that he's gone the distance with, you can see that that becomes, you know, the focal point even more so than winning, but going the distance and not getting stopped. So, you know, making a fight of it, so to speak, but it doesn't necessarily make for the best fights. And a guy like Jade Scott, what can he do? He's trying. He's giving his best effort, but he can't just throw caution to the winds and try to knock out Mike Sedillo. He's got to just do his thing, and if it comes, it comes.
And particularly when you consider that one punch in a heavyweight fight, light as they may be of heavyweights, can certainly turn this around. And after you work so hard through 8 rounds, now in the 9th, you certainly don't want it to go away in one punch. He'd like for it to finish for him for one punch, as you saw him wind up with a right hook that time.
Nice short left hook on the inside by Scott. Nice short, accurate shot.
That's one thing Scott has been pretty well renowned to as well, Bob. I think he kind of finds in kind of that very compact type thing, good short, crisp punches when he does throw them. And again, as we saw early on, throwing that 1, 2, 3 in a row that he threw early on.
Yeah, he's a sharpshooter. He does a lot of things well, Scott doesn't. You see him rolling those punches under there. Even though he's got his head down, his eyes are wide open, and he could tell by the way that Mike Sedillo's chest is shifting where those punches are coming from.
Closing seconds of the 9th round. They're set to go 10. This is our co-feature of the day on the heavyweight explosion with the WBA Latin American Championship. Larry Donnell along with Juan Diaz on the main event today. Mike Sedillo fighting as a pro at 34 years of age. We told you early on in the telecast, again, no amateur experience, kind of learning in the pro ranks and in with a lot of great ones. Had fought for actually up and down about 5 or 6 titles. He actually won the USBA Light Heavyweight Championship, but fought for 5 other titles that he was unsuccessful, but took every one of those outside of the one with more for the WBO Light Heavyweight Championship all the way into the late rounds, either 10 or going all the way into the 12th round. So he's a durable fighter who's been around, and certainly today Jade Scott is proving that, if nothing else, Mike Sedillo has been a top punching bag for him to try to land some punches. See Tommy Brooks trying to encourage him to not lose his composure nor his concentration in the 10th round of this fight today. Don't want to take anything. Good luck there of our outdoor amphitheater as they start to crank down to the ring for the 10th and final round of the fight. Mills Lane has him touch it up to round number 10. Heavyweights, Mike Sedillo on the left. How much does he challenge Jade Scott, the man that has controlled this fight, outside of a potential even 9-9 round on a 1-point deduction for Scott? Back in the 6th round, it's pretty much been Scott all the day.
Well, I'd like to give Mike Sedillo a round or 2 of this fight, but really, other than the point deduction, I've got him being shut out here by Jade Scott.
You see Scott just kind of measuring that punch once again. But again, not doing the 1, 2, or 3 punches. And I would imagine also Sedillo is helping out because he can't get that 1, 2, 3, and the fact that Sedillo no longer is trying to stay in on Scott's chest as he was early on either.
No, I mean, I think that was Scott wanting to do that to Mike, wanted to get in underneath there and work those combinations, whereas Mike Sedillo really is most effective on the outside, jumping in with big punches. He isn't that much of an inside fighter.
You can see the one punch that might have ended this fight even early on in this, maybe not so much late. Sedillo lunging with either a left hand or either a straight one or a left jab, and coming right back over the top of the right hook by Scott. You saw him get it in on Mike Sedillo just a moment ago, and that would have been the one to end the fight.
Yeah, he's trying to rock back and hit him with that counter right hand. There's 2 good body punches by Mike Sedillo, but it's going to be too little too late here today.
Sedillo will be able to go back to Los Angeles. We'll have a little cash in his pocket. Goes back to his wife and 4 children, 3 girls and a boy back in L.A. And again, we'll fight another day.
Yep. Double left hook by Scott there, and Sedillo answers back, and Scott gets underneath both left and right counters by Mike Sedillo. Business as usual here in this 10th and final round.
I made mention that Mike Sedillo won one of the major tournaments out in Los Angeles that they hold every year out in the Forum, and a popular fighter out in Los Angeles. He's quite a name for himself out there.
He's always given a good account of himself and never laid down for anybody, and the fans remember that.
They're fighting to the end of round number 10. You see the time winding here. And the fight went just about as expected early on, with both fighters really for the first 4 rounds being very cautious with their punches and very economic in the fact that neither had come to Reno any time to train in the altitude. Then they tried to step it up, particularly around round number 6 when Scott got caught for the low blow. He fought well in the 6th and 7th round, upping the tempo a bit. But now it's just been business as usual in the 8th, 9th, and 10th to possibly tack on his 19th victory of his career. And there's the bell to end the fight. So Mike Sedillo again has come to Reno, a late replacement, going up against Jade Scott. And Scott again, having not seen Sedillo fight a great deal early on. Jade Scott likewise, the other side. And as we celebrate our 1-year anniversary, we're underway here at the Hilton. And again, just a year ago, we started this all, and of course our good friends at Corona made it all possible. And again, despite the fact he is not with us on this anniversary show, of course our promoter, internationally known Cedric Kushner, he was in Germany for a fight in the light heavyweight division there, and is missing our fight today. But again, on behalf of all of us, happy anniversary to the Cedric Kushner Sports Network and the Heavyweight Explosion. Jade Scott has done pretty much what he wanted to, and I'm sure Tommy Brooks will probably give him a pretty good scorecard, even though I think he wanted to see him a little bit busier if he could. Caution, yes, but busy for the most part for Jade Scott. They recall when he asked him to turn it up, he did a little bit. Then started to get off the chest of Mike Sedillo, was not able to get the 1, 2, 3, and 4 punch combinations in that he did early on. However, he did start to land the overhand right and lefts that Sedillo was not able to handle or block, and thus scoring some more punches with the judges and Jade Scott as the numbers are being accepted here. Scott now at 19-1, 193, and a question that Bob and I continue to ask at that light weight, how well can he do as a potential heavyweight when he gets into the ring with those considerably heavier than he might be. I believe we've got the numbers. Let's go upstairs and get the official decision for today's fight.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a split decision. Judge Bert Clements judges the fight 96-94. Doug Tucker judges the fight 93-96. And Judge Maldonado judges at 95-94. The winner by split decision, Scott, the Jewel.
So again, it'll be interesting. We'll try to get those scorecards because just giving us the numbers and not telling us which way they voted as far as the judges are concerned. Nonetheless, 2 of the judges going again for Jade the Jewel Scott and Mike Sedillo picking up the scorecard on 1 of the cards. A split decision nonetheless for the Jewel, Jade Scott, as he wins here in Reno, Nevada, and continues his march upward with his 19th victory against only a single loss. Bob Spagnuolo will be upstairs in a moment with Tommy Brooks and also Jade Scott to get their impression of how this fight went here this afternoon, with Scott pretty much in control, and we thought very much more so than a split decision might dictate on the judges' card. But again, they're the ones that judge, and some of them will judge because of the activeness of the fighter or the defense of the fighter, and obviously that's what happened in this fight right now. Let's go upstairs to Bob Spagnuolo. Bob?
I'm here with Team Scott in the ring after a split decision announced by the judges. Honestly, I didn't think it was that close. How did you feel?
Well, anything's possible because my performance was nowhere up to par to what it should be. You know, I think I've been training since the middle of February, so I think it's just time that I take a little rest. That's it. You know, I still got a lot to accomplish, but it's just time that I just give my body a little bit of a rest, you know.
Yeah, he's a tough guy, a very durable fighter, as he's shown throughout his career, but he fought mostly defensively against him, and I thought that you were definitely the busier fighter in the fight and had the hand speed, you know, to carry you through the rounds.
Definitely, but my mechanics were just nowhere to be found. I don't know what.
He's an awkward guy.
Yeah, but, you know, the fight is only as tough as I allow it to be. And, you know, I don't look at him when there's something wrong. I have to look at myself because that's where the improvement has to be. I don't look for the
Absolutely.
improvement
It's not
in
too many
nobody else.
fighters who feel that way about it.
You know, so when something goes wrong in here, I blame myself first because I don't worry about what the next man does. I have to be on top of my game at all times.
Things that you can control.
Exactly. So I don't look at nobody else when something goes wrong in here. I look at myself, not my manager, not my trainer, but myself. And I'm not happy at all with this performance. You know, I just think it's time that I take a little rest. And you know, then Lou Duva, Jim Fennell, and Dan Duva, my brain trust, can go ahead and figure out what will be our next move on the checkerboard.
Right, but just the fact that you guys fought a little heavy today is no indication that you're going to fight anywhere but in the cruiserweight division. Is that correct?
At this point, I can't see nowhere else but to go but here. I have to accomplish myself here and establish myself here amongst the champions, and then we can adventure on to other possibilities.
All right, well, congratulations on a good game anyway.
Well, Bob Spagnuolo again with Jade Scott. Interesting. Might take a little time off